Hi, welcome to the twist wrap jumper, and it works slightly different because the tails this time come to the front and they are joined in a slight curve, which actually gives you a hoodie. So when you twist this over and to the back, you actually get a hoodie. Let's have a look from the back, and you get this effect, and of course you get the hoodie. For the wrap twist hoodie jumper, you need a pattern again. You can use your own pattern, or you can download mine once it's done into a PDF, but if you've already got a pattern that works really well, then do it. Please check that if you have got a pattern, the following. Now when you put your pattern pieces together on top of this, the front should always come about 1.5 centimeters lower, and it's just about 0.8 over, so the front is actually in length lower. It also is more scooped, and if you don't have that, then it won't fit quite so nicely. And then you also want to watch out for that it runs very slim towards the hem, and my hem is actually only about 15.5 centimeters. The fabric I've chosen for this is a sweatshirt fabric, which is slightly rough on one side. Most patterns work with a fold. Now you can see this is my original, it's not a PDF yet. You fold it until it fits on very nicely, and pin it in and then cut it. And to not waste any fabric, I repeat this process. I fold it over again. Now I fold the fabric back over again, and as you can see, I can even get out my sleeve, which is great. So you want to put a slip here so you know which is the top, the shoulder seam, and then also which is the front. If you fold these over, you can see that the front is always slimmer. Yeah, it's always a bit slimmer because the back obviously comes round the body, and usually a length of this is quite enough to go around the body twice, because obviously it's double, so it's quite long. So I'm going up to 30. I think that'll be quite nice. Move the tape measure over, just hold it with your hands and aim for 30. I'm also going to even this one out. As you come to the top, give it a little bit of a curve that's slightly snugger around the face. In fact, it would come up a little bit here, so we're going to go ahead and do that. I also want to mark here the center back. So what I'm doing here is folding this over and over. Okay, so I want it to be quite wide. So that makes 8 centimeters, and I want to do that twice. And I want a really nice joint. I'm going to cut this at an angle. And cut it again, so now these two bits go sewn together. And if I now put them on top of each other, like that. Now, first thing to do is to close the shoulder seams. We're going to close our sleeve seams, and we're going to attach this bit here. Now, to get it into the right position all the way along, what you can do is use a specialist equipment. I'm going to mark my 2.5. It disappears after a while, so probably by the time I get up there it's almost gone. Now I've actually sewn this on here all the way along, and this is how it's going to go over to this side and fold it in. Before I do that though, what I need to do is sew these together. This is going to be visible, isn't it? So we're going to create a jean seam. So what you want to do is sew this together with a seam allowance of about 1.5 centimeters. Fold this over to the back, snip this. Oops, not over the scissor because that blunts it. So I'm going to the 1.5. I've got my nice seam allowance, and actually you want one of these seam allowances to go over the other. So one of them, doesn't matter which one, I'm going to cut back totally. So you tuck it in and you put a pin there. So when we stitch this, it's a bit like a jean seam or weld seam. and it's quite easy to do, and then you don't have a nasty seam showing, because that would not be nice, and this is so easy to do. Now at the top here, because I want this to be nice and flat, I've actually snipped this all the way in, so I can turn it over like that, and then when this is turned over like this, it'll be nice and flat. Okay, so my next step here is to sew this. Now I want to sew this close to the edge, backwards and forwards at the end. So now you can see the stitching on this side. I'll turn it over to that side, and you have a nice outside stitch. And I could now go and stitch another one there, and again line it up. Now when I'm doing these sort of stitches, I actually always find a fixed point on my presser foot that I can line up with. The key is not to look at the needle while you're sewing. So the next step now is to move this apart, and I pop this on top of here and pin it. You need to pin it so it's slightly over your seam, otherwise it won't catch from the other side. And then sewing it, you could sew it from this side, that would be fine, close to the edge. Pin it really well, it'll come out really beautiful as well. That's what you need to do. So now we're going to do the sleeves. Make sure that you line up the edge of your fabric with a mark on the needle plate that's for 1 centimeter. The hoodie part here is going to be at the back. Okay, and we've already snipped here where we actually want this to go. So this actually goes on the back now. So I've got to mark my back here as well. So that goes on top of each other. And I simply pin this all the way around until I reach the center front, which I also need to mark. And I'm only going to go to that point. Put a pin in here like that, so I'll sew exactly to that point, and then we've got our end bit here, so we can just turn that in now. And I'm now going to sew all the way around with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Now I've sewn from both sides, as you can see, literally meet there. I've also overlocked it, so if you've got an overlocker, overlock it because it's cleaner. And now I have to still do the other bits there. I'm just going to start rolling from the top here, like that. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and tuck this under. To be fair, when I'm sewing this, I would not even pin this. I find, you can see that now, the pinning actually makes it harder. So I'm going to put this under the sewing machine and sew it so you can see how that's done. You use your finger to push this in while you're working. That takes a bit of practice, but actually, because this will shrink again as well as you do it, you can stretch it. So don't be scared to stretch it, and sort of use your fingernail to move it in, and then you just stitch on the edge. There. Secure it. Now it's like that, which is quite nice, but to get it even better looking, I want to sew these together. And while I'm under the sewing machine, put it straight back under, forward your overlocked edge down, and I'm going to top stitch it from the outside. What that does is I'm now going to have a nice finish. Next we're going to pin together our side seams. And we're also going to sew that seam, then we can overlock here, and we're ready to put in our sleeves. The front is always the one that is cut in more, like this, and the front on your sleeve is always the one side where you put the snip. So I need the snip here on the right side of my front sleeve. Pin these two together, and this is the only time when I pin my sleeve that I'm actually doing it from this side, so they are together. So now I'm going to go from the inside. You can turn it. You always should pin from the inside. Doesn't matter what people tell you, it's the inside you want to do. The key is literally to have your finger underneath there, so you're rolling the fabric over your hand. That is so important. That gives you that rounding you need for that shoulder you've got. Everyone's got a shoulder. We are not flat up there, so you need to make sure that you get that in. You don't ever fold in fabric off the sleeve in the lower area. On this pattern it'll be really easy because it fits in perfectly, because it's jersey and it's very slim cut. Any other pattern, you'll run into trouble if you do that. So I'm taking this one out now so I can check it. Turn it back to the outside and have a little look whether it falls right. It looks really nice. Yeah, it will look nice. In fact, the sleeve could be bigger. So from doing all of these, I've actually added a little bit more ease into the pattern for you guys. Important thing to remember when you're sewing in a sleeve, yes, the following. Keep your centimetre seam allowance, go forwards and backwards at the beginning. Take your time doing a sleeve, don't rush it. Always have the edges on top of each other. Don't let the sleeve head, which likes to come over, come out. All done. I can now overlock this all the way around, and that's finished. Just turn the hem up the same amount all the way around. Let's get those pins in, and we're going to stitch that. Now I want to do my sleeves, but I don't necessarily want to have any stitching on there. So I'm going to go ahead and fold them in how I want them, and I'm going to stitch this here in the seam. I stitch from the outside actually. I start on a seam. And I'm going to put another stitching line right next to it by sewing foot width next to it, and backwards and forwards at the beginning. Again, next to it. There it is. To do the sleeve, I am actually pulling it inside out so that I can get in. Sewing right in the seam. Right from the front. From the front's really nice because you've got all this wraparound. And from the back it's just very cute as well. Yeah. But of course you can wear this as a hoodie. For all those who are concerned about modesty as well and wear headscarves, this is really good because it actually does completely cover your hair.